Okay, 3, 2, 1. Hey
Hey
guys!
I'm Haleigh.
And I'm JJ, and this is Yapping Time. Haleigh, go ahead and ask us our first question.
How do you define success?
Well, okay, this is pretty good. I didn't hear these questions until a couple seconds ago. I'd say okay, when I first started in high school, my idea of success was doing stuff like getting awards, getting awards, being valedictorian, having like physical resemblance, like basically winning. And I think winning is still a measure of success, but I think it's more like, okay, so you know how teachers say like a test is just like to test your knowledge,
Yeah.
but like to us it's a measure of how like a test is supposed to like test the knowledge of that specific topic, but we kind of as students define it as our overall ability to think and learn. It's kind of like that, where I used to think that a test, aka winning in achievements, is my overall ability to think and learn, but now I've just kind of compartmentalized it, I guess, into a measure of how good I do in that area. So that's no longer how that's used to how I would define success. That's no longer how I define success. I think throughout like maturing just during high school and kind of like developing deeper friendships, developing deeper like relationships with my family and other people, I've kind of realized that success is moreover being able to do in life what you want. So if you want to become an ag teacher and you become an ag teacher, that's success. If you want to be rich and you become rich, that's success. If you're cool with not being rich and you want to live in a cabin in the woods and you live in a cabin in the woods, that's success. Success is kind of like whatever you want it to be. So for me, success looks like being a trauma surgeon, being married, living in a big city. For other people, success is living with 8 cats in the middle of the woods in a mountain. That used to be my version of success. It's kind of developed a little bit. But I think success is genuinely just like whatever you want and you achieve it. And that's success.
I agree with that.
Who in your life do you think is successful and why?
I think I'm going to say my stepsister.
Okay, why?
Because she moved to the state that she loves.
Mm-hmm.
In her school, she's very involved in everything that she wanted to be involved in.
Yeah.
She just signed for Honor Society. I guess, is it called signed?
So she did so you kind of define success as like being involved in okay, what are your aspirations for life?
To go to college and to get a job.
So you define success as you going to college and you getting a job.
Yeah, that I like. Okay, JJ, how do you handle working with people that annoy you?
I hit them. I'm just kidding. I don't do that. Mr. Relly, cut that out. I think for me, I always ask myself what's annoying about them, because annoyance either comes from a part of yourself that you don't like, or B, something that they can't control, or something so for a lot of people, when someone, for example, when someone gets defensive really quickly, that annoys me. Because I can be like, hey, why didn't you get this done? And they're like, well, to me, that's annoying. But a lot of people get defensive really quickly because people in the past, or people that they live with right now, or people that they're friends with, or maybe in a relationship, they attack them all the time. And so they're used to being on the defense. And so to me, if I look at it in a sense of that's not their fault, they can't help that, and it's not personal towards me, it just makes me less annoyed because I kind of know the reasoning. Now, sometimes I come across people who are just the way that they are, and those people, you just work with it and you act professional, and then you get the emotions out later to someone that you're close with. But if it's not, normally there is a reason behind it.
Yeah.
And I also don't get annoyed very easily because I live with brothers, and so I kind of have learned to deal with it. But just having a lot of patience for people and understanding where people are coming from. Because there are so, like, you genuinely never know about another person. And so I think just being very understanding just makes me less annoyed. And thinking about why they do the things that they do also makes me less annoyed.
Yeah. If I'm working with somebody that's really annoying, I just try my best to ignore it, ignore them, not try to talk to them as much. But if they talk to me,
What if it's like a long-term thing? Like, I feel like whenever I ignore it, the problem gets worse because I'm just
Yeah.
suppressing those emotions. How do you deal with that?
true. Okay, I feel like then I'll go home and then I'll tell my close friends, like, I'll express my feelings
Yeah.
to them, and then it, like, the weight gets lifted off my shoulders a lot. But, seeing the same person that annoys me every day, if I have to work with them or go to school with them or something, I do get annoyed. I do, but I just try to let that not affect me as much.
Do you think, okay, when you see someone's. I think what also helps me is like when I see. I'm just now learning how to like look past the flaws of people. You get what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
here's the person, and then like this, I'd be like, oh, this is attached to this person. Like, this person has this annoying quality. But I think when I start to put reason behind it, I can start to separate the annoying quality from the person. Like, I like my little brother as a person, but he has some annoying qualities.
yeah. I agree with that.
And I used to see him as those annoying qualities, but I started to put reason behind them and like I can separate them now. And so I think in a professional setting, if you're like, man, it really aggravates me when they do this, and that's something that you can deal with like separately. But I think for long term, if you're having to work with someone long term, separating them from their annoying qualities really helps. Or like seeing those annoying qualities as not the person that they are, but just something that like happens, kind of like a piece of jewelry. Like it's not attached to them, it's just a part of them, but
Yeah.
it's separate.
I'm gonna have to try that out.
That's kind of what I do, because sometimes you get in annoying situations with annoying people and you can't get out.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I think also like setting boundaries, because sometimes if
Yes.
you let people walk all over you, the problem is going to get worse.
Yes.
So did it say how do you work with annoying people?
Yes.
Yeah, that would probably be because sometimes I can be like, oh no, it's fine, when it's not fine, and that person will then think it's fine. You can't let them think that it's fine. You have to communicate and set your boundaries, and that kind of helps prevent and kind of helps it get really, really bad. Because a lot of times when you're annoyed with someone and you are with each other long term, it can escalate.
Yeah. But also, some people, like, if you try to express your feelings to them and you're like no, like it's okay, but like don't do it again. They don't get it. They just don't get
And
it.
I think
and that's hard to.
I think the warning is very necessary because you don't want to come out of nowhere. But I think also if they don't take the warning, like don't do it again, being more firm with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like say like you're like touching my arm. Touch my arm. Hey Haleigh, don't do that. Or like please don't do that. Or like I'll be like, hey Haleigh, don't do that. And then you continue to do it and I'm like, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a difference.
There is.
And some people respond better to one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I always lead off with the warming and then try to be more firm with it.
Yeah.
Also, I think having a lot of patience for people and just trying to see where they're coming from. And I think also making sure that you're not projecting. Do you know that? Have y'all went over that in Dr. Cole's class yet?
No, we haven't.
So projecting is kind of like psychologically when, let's say that like I'm mad at you.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes my brain will be like, well, she was mad at me, so I can be mad at her.
Yeah.
That's projecting. It's kind of like putting my emotions on you or seeing you through my emotions. So the example that, and I'm just going to go ahead and spoil this, the poem in Dr. Cole's class, there's a snowman outside.
Okay.
And there's a little boy indoors. And he's looking out and he feels so bad for the snowman because he's like, the snowman's cold. The snowman's not cold. But if the boy were to step outside, he knows that he would be cold.
Right.
And so he projects that onto the snowman. He's like, if I step outside, I would be cold. So snowman must be cold. Whereas the snowman's looking in and he's like, I don't remember if the snowman knows that the boy is good in heat, or I think it might be a thing where the snowman's like, oh, that boy's in that hot house. He's about to melt. The boy is not about to melt. But if the snowman went inside, he would melt.
Right.
And so it's one of those things where, like, sometimes being annoyed at other people is a you problem. And I think self-reflection before you start criticizing and approaching others is also really important. Before you start putting that problem on, then self-reflection.
Yeah.
And then sometimes annoyance comes from just not understanding someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, for example,
I'm going through a situation right now where that is exactly what's happening.
So, like, not saying any names or anything, if
Right.
you want to, like, describe the situation,
Basically,
you don't have to if you don't want to.
Yeah, I don't, because it's gonna, it's gonna tell.
Okay. Well, okay. Let me think of an example. I think a lot of times it's just,
Like, whenever somebody is doing something that I don't like, and I'm like, hey, stop. And, like, the warning that you were talking about, I'll give them a warning. And then I'm like, hey, like, stop. And then, like, I guess some people don't understand that, like, they're the problem. Like, they're the one that's, like, they're always going to flip it back on somebody else when really it's them that I'm trying to,
yeah.
But I don't know how to.
I think the main thing for when I come across people that it's, after much self-reflection, it's not a me problem, as far as I know, because, again, there's always going to be
Yes.
some level of bias.
Yes.
I've done everything that I can. I've given the warning, and I've given, like, the stern trying to put boundaries. That's when I start distancing myself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly.
And kind of, like, protecting my
say.
peace is
Yeah.
what it's called. Now, that's, like, the buzz.
Yeah.
Protecting my peace.
I can agree on that.
So I think that's really important to learn how to do.
It is. It is.
It's so, like, because I used to just force myself to sit and rot in those situations, but you have to set boundaries.
Yeah.
And if you set boundaries and they pass them, then you have to distance yourself.
Yeah. About a year ago, I think that I finally started setting boundaries. I would always let people get to me, but boundaries are very important.
There was a situation where someone just kept, like, pushing me and pushing me and pushing me, and eventually I had to look at myself, and I was like, it's time for me to set a boundary.
Yeah.
I haven't set any boundaries. They don't know that they can't do this. And so I set the boundary, and they continued past the boundary, and so I cut it off. And I've just been so much more relieved. Like, I look
Yeah.
back, and I'm relieved that I've done that. Because it was so just difficult for me, and it was so burdensome on myself.
Yeah. I've had a situation like that, kind of.